My role at AZ Electronic Materials is as Global CIO. So in that role, I'm responsible for all the technology to run the business across the world. And when we talk about across the world, we operate in about 11 countries. A lot of it actually is out in Asia. AZ is a very innovative business. It's mainly based around electronic materials that go into electronic circuits, so anything in computers, any starter motor, any sort of electronic materials. So we provide to the biggest manufacturers in the world, and very, very innovative technology to enable things to get smaller, more efficient, faster, mobile. So without us, we don't have your fancy phones and cars and everything else across the world. The history of AZ has come from a carve out from Clariant Chemical Company. Since then it's grown and developed quite a lot, and the business is worth many more times than what it was originally purchased back in 2004. In 2010 we floated in the London Stock Exchange very successfully. It was one of the best floats of 2010, and then since then we've had Merck, who's in the process of acquiring the business in 2014. The IT group works on a very integrated sort of approach with the business. We have a business IT steering group, for example, across the business, and that helps really align what their strategies are and our strategies to support the business as much as possible. And we're not seen as just IT. We are really involved in the whole supply chain operations of the group. So it's not just there's IT over in the corner, it's the dark corner, and that's not really how IT is in AZ. There's obviously myself as responsible across the group, and we have an applications team, we have an infrastructure team, and we have a governance team. And there's sort of the three sort of key areas. And then obviously below the applications team, we'll have all of the SAP technologies and all other technologies that we would use, including Winshuttle and infrastructure. And these teams are all global teams. They're all spread out across the group. We have to cover all time zones effectively. And we also have technical support in some of the offshore countries such as China, where it's more development sort of expertise that we require. Our SAP environment is a global platform. So our approach has always been to make it one system across the world and make it consistent. And it gives us a really strong platform then to drive and run change and innovation, etc. going forward. So we've run ECC6, so our R3 operating system is our global core system, and we run all the core modules. On top of that though, we also have BI systems, we've got business object systems, we've got consolidation systems, etc. So we all have those sitting on top, but we're very, very SAP centric in our approach. We were doing a big transformation project from Lotus Notes. We had email and lots of applications. And then we had to then migrate them across to a Microsoft platform. And that's not so simple, as everybody knows. And so then we started looking at, well, what are the issues here? And they're around workflow and approvals of things. And then we come across Winshuttle. So actually that really works, because what technologies are we really keen? We're going to be keen absolutely all the Microsoft stack, and will absolutely be key in SAP. And what does Winshuttle do? Absolutely plugs the two together and gives you really good workflows and flexible workflows. So that's where we sort of see the benefit. And without doing it with big production, we haven't got a big IT team, so we needed to do it fairly in-house, small, as quick as we could, and that seemed to fill our sort of main first requirement. Since then, of course, we've moved on to lots of other things. And it's quite limitless in how far you want to take it. As everybody knows, SAP is a massive investment, and anybody that goes down that route is a big challenge. And you often hear a lot of stories about how successful they are or not. I think in our case, we were able to be a SAP success story, in fact, and we still are today. So we put SAP in, did it very well, but did we optimize it? Well, probably not. And that's where most companies go wrong, I believe, is they're not really focused on trying to improve it going forward. And they tend to just put the basics in and then use it. And we don't challenge ourselves, and CEOs, CFOs, all the top people really don't really challenge the operations of the business enough to really get into it and then say, why have we got 10 people doing that? Why have we got 100 people putting in customer orders across the group, etc.? And Winshuttle Interestingly, it gives you an ability to challenge that a lot more because it gives you a tool to be able to challenge it and automate that process. The power that Winshuttle can give you, using SharePoint and SAP is great, but it only really brings the value alive when you're pulling those sort of three technologies together. The initial implementation was simply around automating our master data processes, so setting up master data across the group, which we control centrally, and we don't have to do much to control it anymore because you've got Winshuttle there. So that was the first part. Beyond that, though, we've developed another 6 applications across the group that it's really just come from demand, and it's grown and grown, and we still see that sort of appetite to demand more functionality of what Winshuttle can do. It's not going to go away, it's only going to get bigger for us. AZ uses Winshuttle in 7 different applications currently. The main applications that we're using is around purchase requisitions. So that's actually approval processes that then post into SAP. So then it's a authorized, approved purchase that loads straight into SAP, so really saving time. We've got other ones such as master data request systems. That's simply increasing the quality of our data, reducing the amount of work that we're doing, and ensuring that it's actually right. So it's really given us a quality master data across the group. That's a really key application used across our organization. We also use just workflows, so not really a full-on application integrated with SAP, but just actually using the workflow engine out of it. And we would use that instead of SharePoint at times, just because it's much more simpler to develop for us. So if we wanted a simple workflow for the business, we would develop that in Winshuttle. One of the examples of how we use Winshuttle was simply through intercompany prices. So, most companies have to sell from one entity to another entity across the world, and you have to put all the conditions in SAP. Anybody that's used SAP, you've got to put in all the purchase conditions and the routing conditions and costing and everything else. You've got to run that, you've got to set it up on both companies, etc., and sell it obviously clearly between the 2 companies. To do that, so really time consuming, got to make sure it's all right and everything adds up, etc. So to be able to do that, we have an application built for us in Winshuttle that then loads all that in, putting this in just for one price for one product to go from one country to another. It could take you half an hour or 40 minutes to get that all done, set up properly. Within Winshuttle, it's really literally minutes. So we are able to automate that process so cleanly and clearly. You just really push the button and then double check it and make sure it's all right. And that's been a fantastic benefit to us. Typically, CapEx or capital expenditure is a thorny area sometimes, I think, to track and manage. And what we found is there's a lot of manual approvals everywhere. So you've got a form, it's all been signed and approved, and it's filed somewhere. But from a group perspective, I'm responsible for the group of IT. So how do I see all my CapEx in each of my countries, for example, and what's been approved, and how do I track and manage that? And I found that quite difficult. So we sort of started to, hang on a minute, we've got to do this more simply and more systematically. And therefore we used or implementing Winshuttle now to do that. And that's simply to manage and control a purchase request system. It's very, very simple. What we want to do, who approves it, signed off, and it's all on the system. And we can then load that into SAP as an investment order, and it's totally integrated all the way through. And that's really brought a really good business process together for us. The CapEx example of really automating and controlling that process, it gives us visibility and control. And our mantra of 1AZ, which then gives us clarity and visibility across the whole group, it just does support that and really helps to drive that 1AZ across the group. You've got control of all of your fixed assets through your approval processes, and then once it's into SAP, of course, you can see the control and any costs that are going against those. So we've really joined those separate processes and put it into one, and we've got control and visibility across 1AZ. Above the core master data that we really manage and control, which is obviously used by Winshuttle, we also use it for projects, so ad hoc projects or a large-scale project of big data migrations, and we'll always use Winshuttle for that. Some of our people that might have been skeptical in the past of using Winshuttle products and just using sort of core R3 products, now even they've really come across and absolutely an advocate behind using Winshuttle because it's easier, it gives you that better controller mechanism and visibility of its success of the uploads, etc. So it's been a really, really good tool for us, and it's just a flexible tool. We can just use it when you want to use it. It's not something that you have to then design lots of things for simple uploads. Are really, really easy to use. Winshuttle gives you a tool to be able to challenge the business. And it's not always IT, it could be the business coming in and driving it too, but it does give you a way to be able to challenge that business. And we don't look and challenge and be analytical enough of how we do business today. So if Winshuttle does, for example, gives you a way to automate a process that people do totally manually today, 99% of the time they're not going to come up and say, hey, I've got an issue here, I fill out 49 forms each day, sign this, put it over here, etc. People don't do that. It's not their natural tendency. So Winshuttle, with some people using that sort of technology and starting to understand what Winshuttle can really do, then that can really start to drive value. A couple of the main ones that we're rolling out in the next few months are around purchase requisitions, so approving of purchase orders. And we're talking about here of non-stock items, so sundry type purchases that we have, and you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. If we look at it typically today, we've got these manual processes, everything all manually done, forms, signed, and in different countries. And so if we're looking in Korea and Taiwan, which are the next countries that we're certainly looking at rolling this out, and there's a lot of business demand for this, it really starts to automate it, makes it much more simple, and we've all got it online and we can see exactly what's approved. And even better than that, it's not just approved, it's also pushing it straight into SAP, so really reducing time and paperwork and printing things out and scanning and everything else. It really does streamline the whole process. And we also sort of see additional benefits, financial benefits, because we should really see our vendors better too, and we've got control of them, and we're really making sure that the right person is approving it systematically. So it's not just in a local level. We can see over a certain limit for a certain cost category, that's got to go to a global approval. And so we can route that straight across to somebody else in another country to approve, and that will post straight into SAP once that's approved. And you know it's been approved by the right person in that case. So this is really putting that control of the purchasing right back into the right people who are actually responsible to control it and manage it going forward. The collaboration right through the project was really positive. We worked very, very closely with Winshuttle. They very much did work to try and develop what we were after. And it's not always them coming up with everything, it's a real joint working relationship. And that seemed to work really, really well for us. But I think, it's certainly been a collaborative relationship with us that's been very, very positive, over that short time. The other thing that Winshuttle we found is they were very, very flexible. So they were flexible to our needs, which was great. But then on top of that, the actual product is quite flexible. So you don't think about a lot of the products that we deal, in the whole corporate world here, they're not such flexible products. Whereas Winshuttle was that little one that could mold the technologies together, which that's where we saw the biggest benefit of it, of course. We can't go into SAP and say, hey, we want this. SAP are going to say, no, thanks. But with a product like Winshuttle, it does give you that flexibility a little bit more to be able to develop and satisfy what you as a business need. And that's where Winshuttle's been really great for us.